Antonio Brown posted on social media a letter he received from the team that detailed about $54,000 in fines for missing time during training camp. Brown's response was, "When your own team want to hate, but there's no stopping me now, devil is a lie. Everyone got to pay this year, so we clear." All right, Adam, this one gets me fired up, and it's a little early to
Why
feel
does it get you fired up?
Because it's upsetting to me. I'm supposed to ask you a question first,
But I'm
here's
asking you
what.
why it's
Okay,
upsetting to you.
here's what I got to say. Since when is it hating that you got to show up for work? That's not hating. That's just requiring the same thing out of you that they require out of everybody else. In Antonio Brown's situation, we've seen time and time again, and I'm sure this is something he's dealt with his whole life because of his supreme talent. There are exceptions made for special people. We know that. Do you think at this point the Raiders are having any buyer's remorse?
I think it would depend on who you ask. I think if you ask John Gruden, he's going to have one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver out there on the field Monday night against the Denver Broncos playing that game. I think if you ask Mike Mayock, he's saying, what do we do having to deal with all this, all these issues, the helmet stuff, him being late, me sending him a fine letter, him posting the fine letter on social media. So, again, this is what you get with a player like this. You get the extreme talent that you're talking about, and you get some of the drama that comes along with it.
So what do you do from an organizational standpoint?
Well, you do exactly what they do. They send him a letter, and the last part of that was the most interesting part of that. It wasn't that he was fined $54,000+. It was that any more missed meetings, any more of this will be considered conduct detrimental. When we start going into conduct detrimental, that means we're going to start going after the money we gave you. And if they start going after the money they gave him, the basically battle that's going on right now, this would be considered a preseason game compared to some of the regular season games that could go on between the Raiders and Antonio Brown. But what are we even talking about? Why is it even happening, to your point?
Yeah, and look, all of this, I think, goes back to the fact that they knew what they were getting. They knew they were getting conduct detrimental when they signed a guy that the Steelers were willing to give up.
Willing to give up and eat $21 million against their cap to do it.
Yeah, it's not good. That means you think you can have addition by subtraction, I guess. Greeny?
Well, again, I mean, I have so many things to say. One of them is that I think that the sound that you hear emanating from Western Pennsylvania is all the people laughing in Pittsburgh saying, "I told you so." And when you say they knew what they were getting, I don't know if they thought they were getting it before they even played a game. And I will just say this, Dominique, I'm going to give it to you on this thought. Guys like Antonio Brown, it never ends well. Look back at the history of receivers with this, any kind of this sort of stuff around them. It rarely ends well, and it doesn't always end when you expect it to. I wouldn't bet you my life savings that he makes it through the season in Oakland.
I don't think that's crazy to say, and I do think that it's difficult to talk about this because the way that he's behaving is so illogical that it makes you concerned that there's something else going on. And we don't want to speculate like that, but I am concerned about those sorts of things. And it's been happening more and more as the season, or excuse me, as the years go on. So they can't be surprised and they can't be upset. I don't know how they feel in that organization, but you're not going to $54,000 Antonio Brown into behaving himself once you've already gave him tens of millions of dollars. So they have accepted this problem, and they're paying this problem, and it's not going to go away.
D-Wood, if you're another player on that team, if you're in that offensive room, if you're Derek Carr, what are you thinking as you see all this go on?
Just give me to week one. Yeah. Really, I mean, that's all you can think right now. Is like, as much as we talk about all the off-field shenanigans, let's remember here, this is the best wide receiver of this generation. Let's not forget the type of numbers that he put up in Pittsburgh. Now, granted, it was with Big Ben Roethlisberger, but you don't think a guy like Antonio Brown is going to help Derek Carr, who's on the hot season this season?
Yeah.
Let's see. I remember I was doing this job when John Gruden told Keyshawn Johnson in Tampa, take your money and get out of here. Just get out of here. And it's happened before, and it's happened with Terrell Owens. And this is not a team that's going to the Super Bowl this year. So there could come a point during this season, I would not bet against it, that they just make up their minds and say, you know what, this is not worth the trouble.
That's the point right there. The point that you said about him being a part of good teams. I think this is an Antonio Brown experience that he hasn't had yet. This team is not going to be good. He came from an organization that had phenomenal structure and has never really ever been bad. He's going to go into this situation that we're not sure about the structure. We're not sure that John Gruden is even a good good coach at this point. We don't know if Derek Carr's a starting quarterback. I think this thing could fall apart. You're right, Greeny. This is a high-risk proposition right now.
This is, of all the storylines going into the NFL season, this is the one I think that bears watching the most closely. This is a guy who was on the verge of breaking the record for most catches in a decade, and he'll do it this year if he plays the entire season easily. I don't know that this thing is going to last. Guys like him, it very seldom ends well. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.